We want to hear the whole story.
And to tell you the whole story, here are the director and the producers of the movie, Claudio Fay, Mark Weigert and Volker Engel.
And here's the director, Claudio Fay, on our exterior shooting stage, which actually was an abandoned prison in Cuernavaca, Mexico.
And here are the producers, Mark on the left and Volker on the right. We used this prison square kind of as a base camp where we shot various exterior scenes for the movie, such as, for instance, the opening sequence where Claire tries to save Arnett from being shot.
And as in so many other sequences in the movie, this was shot with a lot of blue screen in the background. And as you see Claire running here, many of the backgrounds were inserted in post-production later.
And these were actually skies and buildings and cities.
For all the mass scenes, we could only afford a handful of extras, and we shot them on the very same prison square against blue screen and then duplicated them in post-production to create these masses.
Sometimes, like in this shot, actually, we had digital extras, thousands of them.
They're really cheap.
There's high tech, low tech, and that's tech.
The waterfall sequence contains one of our signature shots, and we started with this production art.
We also did computer-generated pre-visualization, which is basically an animated storyboard that lets us plan all the elements and the timing of shots before we actually shoot them or generate them.
And then the principal photography is much more about collecting elements rather than finished shots, such as the actors, the reverse angles on the actors in the jungle, which was the only thing we shot in the jungle.
Welcome a nuestra casa!
The statues on the left and the right were actually this one miniature that we shot with a digital photo camera. And the tree on the left and the right is actually only one tree that we replicated.
That's one of the hardest things in effects animation, maintaining scale, because it's really easy sometimes just to animate the object moving, but sometimes if it moves too quickly or too slowly, it either looks too big or too small.
There was one shot from underneath the osprey looking up as it comes out of the waterfall. I just made little elements that looked like water dropping on the lens, and that kind of stuff. You know, in a perfect world, water doesn't drop on the lens. But I would rather have people think that we were sloppy shooting than know that we did the whole shot in CG. So making it less than perfect sells the reality of the shot.
If you use the velocity of these blades that are rotating really fast, the particles just want to fly all over the place. So you don't do anything physically correct, you just make it look good.
The chase sequence of the movie was complex in as far as it was spread out all over principal photography. I think we shot elements of the chase on the third day of photography and other elements or other shots on the very last day of principal photography.
What we see here is called poor man's process, and that means that we actually, as you see, we have the cars standing in a parking lot and a couple of crew members are shaking them, and we put the camera on those in a way that you never really see the backgrounds.
Most of the shots also of our main actors in the driver's cabin and so on have been done exactly that way.
And it saves you a lot of hassle and certainly money on stunt work, because you don't jeopardize your actors.
And of course we're mixing this all the time with blue screen elements, like here when you see these side angle shots, we shot that also basically on a parking lot and had a blue screen behind the actors.
And then all the driving footage was basically done as a second unit shoot, if you will, without the actors, of just getting cars, drive-bys, and hopefully spectacular stuff.
There's some planning going on.
Oh, no idea what we're talking about here.
And Jaime Reynoso, the DP, was involved in quite some acrobatic stunts himself.
Yeah, I hope the people that rented us the cameras don't see this.
We shot all this on an airfield in Mexico that was actually quite difficult to shoot that day because it had rained during the night.
Actually changed because then in the beginning it's really muddy and then
They got dry.
Yeah, and here I was explaining to our pyro guy how to shoot the bazooka, and then it fired backwards. And of course, we also mixed everything with the miniature jeeps. And here's some tests for the flying jeeps.
The last right in front of the camera.
And back to the airfield.
the tripod there is actually a stand-in for where the miniature jeep will land.
And this is the final scene as it appears in the movie. And I think it's remarkably close to the pre-visualization that we've seen before.
Instead of flying the actors to Switzerland, we actually had a second unit crew with DP Anna Förster and Claudio to shoot all the backgrounds for this sequence.
But the actors were shot against green screen and blue screen when we did cover sets during a thunderstorm in Mexico in our prison.
Yeah, this was actually the bakery of the prison. It was literally a shithole. It was actually, we found some rats in the in the corner.
But of course, that's acting, you know, pretending that they're driving through beautiful, picturesque Switzerland, but instead they're looking at dead rats.
And here are Claudio's parents.
Art director Mirko von Berner in action, scorching the door to the hotel room.
And in like in so many scenes in the movie, we limited the amount of real elements to an absolute minimum, which made it tough for the actors to interact with. In this case, it was only a door frame that was real.
And the miniature from Hunter Gratzner that's beautifully detailed. And then we shot this actually with a 35mm camera for a slow motion effect, and then added a lot of digital elements.
Yeah, here's Brendan Davis, our CG animator. I'm adding all the smoke and dust elements, little pieces that are raining down from, you know, different parts of the building. The bridge sequence was one of the most important action scenes, the longest actually, also in the movie. I think originally we planned to find a real bridge where we can shoot on, and we actually did location scouting and found a bridge in the Valley of Death, I think in Mexico. But we noticed after a while that it was just way too dangerous to shoot there, and also logistically it would have been like a mile walk to actually get to the location. So we decided to do it all in front of a blue screen, and this is it. So we're shooting basically in two different parking lots. One actually is our Mexican prison yard, and the other one was the parking lot of the miniature company where we shoot.
And of course, this hugely complex 8-minute long sequence could only be tackled with careful pre-production and pre-planning, such as pre-realization of the entire sequence that helped us define every single angle, and we knew what we were in for. And actually also, this was the first shooting day of Jaime Reynoso, who came in very late in the game, replacing a previous camera crew. And I remember it was really tricky. We were really nervous if he could pull that off without the proper planning of it. You only had one day of preparation for it, and he really pulled it off remarkably well.
And of course we needed to add a lot of miniature work. We have a 6-scale miniature bridge, and it's also a lot improvised when you look at the fishing wires we're using here to pull the truck over the bridge. And we're using pneumatics to make the bridge collapse on cue, which is a very tricky piece of work.
It was a little bit like in Disneyland actually, because we could within like
You could set it up
45 minutes,
again.
we could set it up again and do it over again.
It was very well done by the company Hunter Grassner.
All those cross bracing and stuff pops off, sticks on the top fall down, and debris flies everywhere.
And of course, it only really works well when you shoot this in slow motion, and our cameras were running between 200 frames and 360 frames per second. So when it gets shown or gets projected, it all looks really slow and majestic.
And naturally, in such an intense action